building a team?
Yeah, I think, the last 2 months basically has been all about constructing a new roster. I think anytime you have 81 new players, which might be a record in college football, I don't know. Some of you guys probably know that better than me. But it's something, we've been used to it on a little bit of a smaller scale at North Texas the last couple of years. I think after year one, we had 74 new players. Last year, 65, I think. And so it's not abnormal, I think, to have the big turnover in college football right now. Now, this is going to be a little bit larger than hopefully what we have in the future. Hopefully this is something great to build on. But I think when we looked at this from the get-go is we needed to add some pieces that have played a lot of football on this team. And as we got into doing that, that's something that I think our coaches were able to do really effectively. When we look at the number of snaps played, and then really, we want our roster to be in a good spot, as far as seniors to juniors, sophomores to freshmen. That way, when we start building a program, hopefully, you're able to take 20 to 25 high school kids every single year, which is something that we'll strive to do here. And so right now, we feel like we're in a really good spot as far as where we're at right now. I mean, by the numbers right now, 33 seniors on this roster that have played a ton of football, 25 juniors, 20 sophomores, and 27 freshmen. And the majority of all these upperclassmen and then a bunch of these younger guys we're able to bring in have played a significant amount of football already, wherever that might be, whether it's, at another Division I institution, a junior college institution, Division II. And so that's kind of been the secret to our success in the past is finding guys that have played meaningful snaps somewhere. And so a variety of different ways that we were able to field this roster this year. And so, a little bit unique in that regard. Going forward, hopefully the retention is a lot higher. It will be. And then naturally you just want to add a bunch of high school pieces onto that. And now gets to the fun part. I think Monday was the first time I was really able to relax and breathe and come into the office and focus on what's next. And that's building the culture in these walls, in this building, in our locker room. And that starts with building relationships and spending time with one another. And so obviously our strength coach, Coach Kagans, has gotten a great jump on that, getting the guys here the last 3 or 4 weeks and being able to, do the running, the lifting, all that other stuff. And nowadays with football rules, the access to these kids during the off season is a lot greater than what it used to be. And so for us right now, we got to be really intentional because football games are won in the trenches, and so we feel like up front we've added some really good pieces, but for us to gel together and to be really good on the offense and defensive line, we need to get bigger, faster, stronger. We're doing, and at the same time we got to be really intentional about now teaching schemes. So I think coaching is teaching. I grew up. My father was a teacher, a high school English teacher, also. My high school basketball coach. And so I think we have some of the greatest teachers in all of college sports right now on our staff. And so it's been so fun. We did what we call football school this week. And so for us to get back up here finally in front of this group as a whole, our coaching staff, not on the road, trying to put this roster together, we've been able to start teaching. And then, after we get done teaching, we go and we all eat breakfast together and start learning about everybody's stories, right? And that's something that's so unique about football and something I truly love is I call it the melting pot of the locker room. And so, especially this day and age, I mean, we put together 81 new players combined, with 20-something returners. And then somehow, some way, we got to get to know each other and all be pulling the same direction to go out and 12 Saturdays a year, to be willing to sacrifice for one another. And so that's the unique part and the most fun for me, I think. And so we'll be really intentional over the course of the next 4 or 5 months, not only teaching football, teaching schemes, but also spending quality time together, getting to know each other's why, what makes them tick, what motivates. And then I think naturally, as we get that going and then football starts up here in a month and a half, when we get into spring ball, you get 15 chances to get out there and compete with one another and learn and grow and kind of see where we're at, right? The cool thing right now, we don't have many guys that aren't here right now. I think of the guys that are coming in, I'll find it. I got it somewhere on a piece of paper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So only 9 guys that we'll have that'll come in the summer. Back in the day, it used to be 25, 30 guys that would be joining in the summer. So the majority of our roster will be here for us to spend time and use this next 4 or 5 months to really grow the chemistry of this team.
When the portal opened, the big news immediately was Drew and Caleb and Wyatt. In this day and time, can you characterize what those negotiations were like? Because I know there were a lot of other schools after those guys.
Yeah, I think trust is one of the most important things that you'll ever have in a football program, and I think you need trust. Starts within the coaching staff and whether we trust one another, and then I think it goes on to coach the player. Do you trust one another? And then when you ultimately have great teams, I think your players trust one another, and I think it takes time to build trust. And so I think those are 2 guys that sitting, you think back a year ago, nobody knew who the hell Caleb Hawkins was from, Shawnee, Oklahoma. Had one offer and we found him in camp. And so obviously, we do this the old-fashioned, genuine way. Like, we pour into these kids and we love these kids and their families, right? And so, Caleb Hawkins' mom is somebody that's in my phone, and we've communicated for over a year now and gave him an opportunity. He comes in, he busts his tail, and he creates this opportunity for himself, right? And then I think Drew's story is so captivating, and I think America kind of took over Drew's story this year. Just as it kind of grew, is just remarkable. A kid that didn't play, high school football in the state of Texas at a storied program, comes in as a walk-on, earns the number 2 job, has an amazing bowl game to kind of burst onto the national scene, right? And then, we bring in another, highly decorated quarterback to take over the job at North Texas. He wins the job, goes out and leads the nation in passing. And all those things are really cool. But I think as you guys get to know Drew more and more, this kid not only is a great football player, but he's a great teammate. He's a great human being. He does the right things. He's about the right things. He's going to be somebody that's really visible in this community. Really cool to watch him last week. I'm from Texas, and I know, not a huge wrestling state in Texas. I've been in out 2 matches, Bedlam, and then watched us beat the dog out of Iowa State the other day. And so, just a cool experience, I think, for all of us coming down here to feel so welcomed and to see him, lead out the wrestlers and just become a part of this community is what it's all about, and playing quarterback here. And so obviously in this day and age, rev share, NIL, all these things, numbers thrown out, like at the end of the day, like this kid finally got his opportunity last year and he ran with it. But, my answer to that is we built trust. And those kids, we didn't recruit them because they were 4- and 5-star kids out of high school and all those things. We recruited them because we believed in them first and foremost, and they came in, they bought into what we were doing as a program, and they were rewarded on the field and obviously had a lot of production and 2 really good humans, really good teammates, and lucky to get those guys here and help us build this thing in Stillwater.
On Drew, would you consider his personality kind of disarming? He kind of, in a way that, kind of like, hey, I'm just a guy. He kind of gives that vibe.
Yeah, I think that's his personality off the field. What's been fun to see Drew and Caleb, I'll put him in this category too. 2 just super competitors on the field, and to watch them growing into what they've become has been really fun for me to see as a coach. Just to see the progression, but what's really fun is when you see them compete with their brothers on Saturdays, and they're really able to change and go into a different mode on the field and have another personality out there and be super competitive. And so Drew's somebody that the guys love competing with. He's a guy that's not afraid to lower his shoulder and get a tough first down, and just a true competitor. And I think they're both just truly grateful for the opportunity that they had last year and then what's coming in the future.
Obviously, Drew and Caleb are the headliners for that North Texas group that you were able to get here, but it's a big group of guys you had on your team last year. Obviously, you want them to make plays, you want them to contribute, but What else are you hoping that group as a collective will bring to this roster and this team as you're working to rebuild?
Yeah, I think 18 people coming over from North Texas, 21 if you add other guys that we coached before, Oscar Hammond, Io Adei, and then Tyler Mercer coming from Kansas. So all guys that are familiar with what we do, not only schematically, but how we run the program, the standards that we have, our communication styles, what's expected in the off season. We run a tough program in the off season, and we want things to be extremely hard for them. And so I think anytime you have guys that have already bought into that culture and you have an extra 21 people that ultimately know, the way that we think, the way that we operate, and then obviously they've had success in the systems. And so I think the confidence that they're going to bring as we get into the installs and we learn how to communicate with one another, and we learn how to build relationships. I mean, I think naturally. Now, the one thing that I made really, really clear and evident in my very first team meeting here is when I got into this room right here, like all 21 of the North Texas people were all sitting, on one side, and then we had everybody else over here. So before I even started getting into anything, I made everybody stand up. And everybody had to sit by somebody they didn't know in this room. So, this is not North Texas, and this is the last time I'm going to talk actually about North Texas, just because this is all about 2026, the Oklahoma State Cowboy football team, and our identity is starting to be built right now. We've done nothing that we've done in the past is going to translate us winning games in the Big 12, and I know that, and so we have to continue to build what this room's identity is going to be this year, and they're going to be a big part of it, and they're going to help bring it all together, right? But no, at no time will this ever be us versus them. I mean, it's all about this group individually coming together as a unit starting now, and so yeah, I think it helps them all together, but never can that ever start to separate us and us versus them.
You made it very clear how important it is. Relationships, getting to know the guys that you're bringing in. When you're bringing in 81 guys, around 60 that you've never really coached before, how hard is that in a 2-month span to really get to know the guys at the level that you prefer to get to know them in the recruiting process?
Yeah, I think it's already started. So the one thing I like to do is I make myself available, and then I go room to room when we start position meetings, and so just a way for myself to be visible and really see our coaches, the way that they coach, the style that they coach, that they teach, and then also the way that our kids learn and the way they communicate back to them. You can learn a lot that way. And then for me is just finding touch points for them. And so every morning I find a new kid to eat breakfast with. Luckily where our food is, our cafeteria is right now is, maybe 30 yards from my office right now. And so that's a great chance for me to get in there in the mornings and pick a group. Maybe it's a position group to sit down and eat with and talk. And usually my only rule about that is we do not talk about football. And they're going to start asking football questions and figuring it out. And it's just not allowed, right? And I want to learn more about them as a person, as a human being, their family, where they're from. And so, and then we get another chance after they get done working out and lifting in the afternoons. Dinner is from 5 to 9 o'clock up there in the same spot. And so, luckily, my family's not here yet. And so, I moved into my house about a week and a half ago. I have a mattress. I have one towel that I took from here so that I can shower there. And I went by and bought a case of water, and I have a TV that's on the floor. And so, that's all that I have in my house right now. So there's nothing to go home to. And so this is a great opportunity for me to spend just a ton of time up here and find, these times for me to get around these kids. And there's nothing, I don't have a special way or a magic way to build relationships. The only way I know how to do it is to spend quality time with these kids. And so that's one thing that I'm committed to right now. And it'll continue to be that way throughout the course of this spring. But even, finding ways to bring kids in my office and sit down and just open up lines of communication.
Have you had breakfast with KD Jones yet?
I've done a lot of different things with KD, but yes, I have.
So, you've watched a million or a lot of video of him, gotten to know him now. What's your expectation for him?
Yeah, I think he has a really, really high ceiling, I think. I mean, a really athletic kid. I haven't been able to see him do anything football related yet. The only thing I've seen him do is actually just some conditioning runs, some sprint run, watch him change direction, watch him lift weights. I think one thing that struck me so early about KD is just his maturity and the way he stepped in. Now, the one thing that really helps that is the way that Caleb Hawkins handles his business every day. Is KD gets a front seat to that, and he gets to see the way that Caleb comes in early and he takes care of his body with maintenance, and he's in the training room. He's in there early for lift. He's already stretched out. The intensity that he does lift with, that he runs with, you're going to fall behind in a hurry if you don't just look and learn and see what made Caleb so successful. So I think, the depth that we have there. I mean, you're talking about, we got Trey Page that's already in that room, that's coming from Tarleton, that has a ton of carries. We have, William Mason's a guy that coming from Central Oklahoma that's had a ton of success. So I think for him, he's got a room in there that he can actually watch and learn and grow from guys that have already done it at a really successful rate.
You've done the portal before to a heavy degree when you were at that other school. I won't mention it.
I like it.
And then how tough was this? Because this was even a bigger number, and you're not only looking at talent, you're looking at depth and balance, trying to fill each room. And then the second prong of the question is you signed a kid from Belchase, Louisiana today in your signing class, and it brought back memories. It was an old-fashioned switcheroo at the last minute. Everybody covers recruiting loves a flip, and you got to flip on the day-to-day. So talk about Savion from Bartholomew, I think.
Yep.
And then how you navigated the portal with regards to depth and balance.
Yeah, I mean, I think navigating the portal is something that really it was constant for 2 months. I mean, I think you have to be ready to be fluid, and it's ever changing, right? And I think it's ever changing with the people that are going out and then coming in all at one time. Obviously now there's a financial piece to it that goes along with that when you're talking about revenue share and you're trying to get the right pieces to come together. And I think for us, like just doing research on kids and having the ability to pick up the phone and call a coach, whether it's an old high school coach, whether it's a school that he's transferring from right now, and try to get information, right? And I think, competitive character is like one of the biggest things to me that sets people apart in our programs, just because when people are here and they get in our program and the way that we operate every day, like they better be able to be ready to compete. And there's one thing, like everything's going to be earned. Every position's going to be earned. Like we're going to this thing with a clean slate right now. And I don't care, and I've made it evident. I don't care, what Raj did with the contracts and what's going on. Like if you're the best player at your position, you're going to earn a chance to play for this football team this year. And whether that's offense, defense, special teams, we've had a ton of guys, that have come in that started as walk-ons. I mean, Drew's a great evidence, but also a guy in Quentin Hammonds that we brought over that's a starting safety for us that played receiver in high school in Allen. And he made his way as a walk-on at North Texas as on the kickoff team. And all of a sudden at the end of the year, he never played safety his life. He's so good on kickoff, moved to safety, ends up starting the last 2 years, and is a guy that we're going to count on in a lot of different roles here that came over. So I'm a big believer that people get in here and they're going to earn everything that they're given. And so, like, for us to be able to, obviously, we want to acquire as much talent as we can in that portal, right? Now we transition to ripping that all back and then allowing these guys and putting them in positions to compete. Like we'll have some of the greatest competitions that I've had in the last 4 or 5 years during the course of this spring ball. And there's a bunch of spots. Obviously, we got one starter back on offense. He didn't start that many games either. And we got 3 on defense and 0 specialists, and we brought all these guys in. So, for me, like the portal, you got some guys that come in that were highly successful at their last place. Now you also got, some guys that are coming over from P4 schools that they're coming over because they didn't have the success that they wanted at that place, or they weren't getting the playing time. And so trying to manage all these guys' feelings. Like, I'm not a coach that really deals well with guys that are sad and mope around and don't want to go out there and earn everything. And so it'll be a shock for some of them, but everybody, it's a new starting point for everybody. Some people are really happy coming off a great season. Some people are coming in pissed off and looking for a new opportunity to go prove it, right? And so this will always be a program where you earn everything that you're given around here. I think that's kind of what built Oklahoma State up. The last 20 years, I thought there was a toughness about this place, a grittiness, and somewhere where you took the field against the Cowboys, like, you better strap up and be ready to roll, because these boys are going to come ready to play. And so we got to get back to that, obviously. And then at some point, these guys, like for me, and really diving into the guys that have been here already, and some of our guys that are holdovers, and some returning letter winners. There's not a ton of them, but just, I had breakfast with Luke Webb yesterday, and he's been here for 2 years. He's a redshirt freshman, will be a redshirt sophomore last year. Like, this is a kid that's been here and loves this place, and he's never won a conference game. Like that's personal to me now, getting to know him, and like that's something that will drive me every day, getting up and making sure that I make him accountable, because there's a lot of steps we got to take to get there. Like, we're not even close to being a finished product. They're ready to travel down the road to Tulsa and play that opening game. There's a lot of work to be done, but there's going to be a lot of motivating factors for us pressing all the right buttons to ultimately get to where we want to be to be able to win the game.
Eric, I'm sure a lot of coaches, when they're out recruiting, whether it's the portal or high school guys, have similar messages about, I'm going to give you the chance to come in and earn an opportunity. Do you think it helps you? Do you think your message rings truer maybe for some guys when you're able to point at guys like Drew and Caleb? Like, do you use those guys as examples of, hey, this is what I did with this guy, and if you look at where he was before, you could come in and if you work hard, have a similar role?
Yeah, I think so. Recruiting just changed so much over the course of the last 7 or 8 years in particular. And I know there's a bunch of people in this room where remember, this Wednesday event and this press conference was a huge deal, and you showed tape up here, and you got all these high school guys coming, and everybody's super excited about this new wave. And the big question then was, like, how long was it going to take to develop this kid, right? There's going to be this track on usually your bigger guys are going to take 2 or 3 years and till they can get on the field, and then you'd have a guy that's a standout maybe athlete that gets on the field early, and just vastly changed now, and where really we're probably one of the only Big 12 schools. Well, I guess there's a couple that are probably in our shoes, but there's a bunch of people in this conference that signed nobody today. That this is an irrelevant mute point on what's going on with the early signing period, with the portal, and the way that these the acquisitions actually happen right now. And so, but yeah, I think that and for us, like, we'll never be afraid to take a chance on somebody we believe in. And the one thing that I believe in always is personal evaluations. Like, I want to see these kids do it, and all the things I talked about. Not only like are his measurables right. Is he big, fast, strong? Can he run? Can he change direction? We like to see track times. I like to see how they jump, how they do this, all the different things. But to have the competitive character that we want in this program is something that I think, it gets ignored this day and age, because people want to watch all the huddle tape, which is so accessible, and then you have to offer kids so early, right? Like, as we went back on the road kind of at the back end of this thing, obviously in this 27 class, like, we feel like we're behind right now, and I think that's a natural feeling, because at this level, at the P4 level, these guys have been recruiting these guys for well over a year now, and now we're looking obviously for a little bit different caliber athlete now, moving up to a P4 school, but at the same time you got to sit there and think and like, okay, well, there's a bunch of really good programs, some blue bloods that wanted a bunch of these players that we had, coming with us this year. And so not losing that art form and what's made us good. Obviously, we're going to recruit at a different level. It's all about building relationships and winning some of these, recruiting battles in Texas and Oklahoma, which is not easy to do this day and age. But at the same time, like I think that we've done a nice job at evaluating talent and finding some of these guys that maybe didn't have these opportunities because they checked all the boxes for us, right? And we got the personal eval, and then also, hey, this is a kid that's tough. He's super competitive. He plays multiple sports, finding out and making a phone call and figuring out, how he handles his business on a day-to-day. So we'll continue to really, kind of go through the proper channels to recruit the right person into these seats. But yeah, I mean, I think in the portal at some point, I mean, obviously I think the production helps too, just the way that the offense has been able to produce over the course of the last, 15 years or so, that at certain positions that they want to be involved in the story or the development of quarterbacks. Like obviously, Coach Brophy does a phenomenal job developing quarterbacks. So at some of those possessions, it helps.
You see the kind of skill players that you brought in on the offense. But the line, obviously, you got 20 offensive linemen coming in. Are there fingerprints when it comes to offensive linemen for your offense, things that you look for in all those guys, or just kind of give us an insight of what that looks like in your offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw a cool graphic the other day. Actually, one of the coaches sent it to me, but of offensive linemen for next year, 2026, we're like in the top 10 on our roster for the amount of snaps that have been played in all of college football. And so that was cool for me because that's something that we really look for, right? And so we have a bunch of guys that we brought in, obviously like Braden Nelson's played left tackle for us the last couple of years, Johnny Dixon, Desmond Magia, Tyler Mercer started for us as a freshman at North Texas, Joseph Hanson's coming from Coastal Carolina, Ashton Lepo's coming from Michigan State, Sean's coming from Portland State, Jacob Sexton coming from Oklahoma. But like all those guys I just read about, like they all have over 1,000 snaps that they've already played, and some of them close to 2,000 snaps they've already played in college football. And so like I don't think that you can replicate game reps. Like that's something like I'll stand on the table and I'll die on that hill is to have that experience. And I really don't care where it is. Obviously the higher levels that you get, the competition's better, and I think they've just seen a faster athlete and things happen a little faster. But like we've had great success with getting Division II guys, and that's why to me it's a no-brainer. You go get a guy, from Bixby, Oklahoma, by way of Central Oklahoma, that's an All-American that has led his team in tackles the last 2 years. Like this kid's played a ton of football, he's seen a ton. Now, for us, when he gets here, the verbiage is different, and it's on us to kind of get him caught up to speed on what we do schematically. But I think those kids that have played a lot of football, like it's a lot easier for them to connect the dots, and it's a lot easier for them to go out there and make sense of what's going on because they've been a part of it live in action, on game day when the bullets are flying out there. And so yeah, I mean, our offensive line, I think, is a little bit further ahead as far as maturity of games played as opposed to our defensive line right now. And I do think, defensive line-wise, we do have some defensive ends here, and then Iman Oates inside. So we do have some pieces that I think are really good players when you look at what they've been able to do here. And so excited about kind of where we're at up front on both sides. But, inside defensive line-wise, we like to roll guys in there, and there will be some guys in there that haven't played a ton of football that we'll have to get ready to play through this offseason in the next 5 or 6 months.
Eric, Eric, how big was it to retain the coaching staff, get a lot of guys from North Texas that know everything? And what's been the vibe of them basically having a clean slate and starting fresh with everything with this roster?
Yeah, I mean, I always think continuity in the sport is huge, right? And so I think, really important for me to be able to bring the coaching staff over. And I think you just pick up where you left off, right? Now, the biggest challenge for the coaching staff now, and something that I've harped with those guys, is like we can't assume that, and we got to start with a blank slate and assume nobody in your meeting room knows nothing right now, right? And I think that could be, a little hectic at times, just for the fact that some of these guys, Coach Brophy can't sit in a meeting and assume that all these 3 other guys know something because Drew knows something because he's been through all this install before, right? So we got to go back to square one, and this is a clean slate, and we got to do a great job of teaching the basics of what's going on right now. Like fundamentally is something that I'm huge on, and for us to get fundamentally better, like we're going to break this down to the nth degree and start with the basics right now. And then even, more so on that, even with our weight program, right? And being able to do the same thing with our off-season program in the weight room right now, just because Coach Keggins obviously has some guys with some familiar faces. So I do think if we do this the right way and we use those guys to almost be like 21 other coaches for us out there as we bring these other guys along, I think it could be a huge, resource for us.
After your introduction, you said something about open practices. You still planning on having open practices?
Yeah, we'll have some open practices. Haven't got it. Hopefully, we're going to do all of our spring stuff this next week. So, we'll have some open practices. Obviously, just getting the lay of the land and figuring out, when we're doing certain things. I think, we'll do one scrimmage on the same day that we have the boys from Oklahoma thing here, and obviously won't be able to use the Boone Pickens for that scrimmage. Plan on having a spring game, I think on the 18th. So a bunch of information to come out on that stuff. But we want to be visible. We want you guys to be able to come in there and see us. Obviously, I'm not a big secret guy, and we don't do a ton. We game plan quite a bit. And so we'll be pretty vanilla, just trying to get really good at fundamentals and our base things during the course of this spring. So, yeah, not all of them will be open, but there will be great opportunities for people to come out and see us build this and get behind us, right? And I think, obviously our season tickets, we've sold over 1,000 new season tickets already this year. And so as that continues to ramp up, like this is a place, like, for me, the reception has just been phenomenal for me and my family to be out in this community and be eating and talking and learn about what makes this place special to so many people in Stillwater and Oklahoma City and Tulsa, even in Texas. When I'm down in Dallas, I've met so many people that have ties to this place. And so, I think we want to be an open book, but at the same time, we don't want to put stuff out there that puts us at a disadvantage.
When do you start in spring? First day?
No, I don't know the first. We're going a week before spring break. Yeah, so I think maybe
Friday.
9. So the clinic on Friday, all Oklahoma coaches, we're going to get over here and open that practice for them and then spend some time with them and do some clinicking afterwards, offense, defense, special teams with the Oklahoma high school coaches. And so, yeah, I think it's the 9th. We'll go 3 days before spring break, and then we'll come back and get 12 practice in after that.
So the season ticket numbers, they started the season ticket sales campaign here a lot earlier and to capitalize on the momentum right at the pep rally and everything. So, but the numbers so far are pretty striking. Are you kept up to date on that? Just somewhat regularly, or do you want to stay informed on that stuff?
No, I think just the general numbers as we kind of hit milestones and markers, and obviously, we want people to be able to come and enjoy. And I've always said this, right? Like, it's become such a production, these games, and even the wrestling match. I went the other day, and I had no clue, and to see, the event that it was, right? And I was so entertained the whole damn time. Like, I didn't even know anything about scoring wrestling. Like, I'm asking questions, everybody's sitting by me. I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm standing up, and we're pinning them, and I'd never know 1 point, 3 point, 4. What you got to win for when they start scoring it. When you get 6 points on it, when you pin them. So that's kind of fired me up. But not only that, I think to see the introductions and see them come out and see the energy, the atmosphere that's in that play that was something that's been remarkable for me. And so, but anytime winning's fun. We got to build a winning product and a fun product to come out on Saturdays, enjoy, and making memories in Boone Pickens is what people remember for a lifetime. It's what our students are going to remember for a lifetime, and having good memories is what's going to cause them to want to come back and pour into this place and continue to give back, because they have those moments in time when you remember when we did something special together, right? And so that's part on me. Like, I understand that. I get it. I understand sitting at the head of this thing, trying to rebuild it, to what it's been. Like, putting a great product in the field is our responsibility, right? That's my responsibility at the end of the day. And so, for me, I'm excited. Like, are we ready to go out and declare that we're already in contention for that? No, like, we got so much work to do, right? For us to be able to get there and get prepared to go compete, right? And for me, like, there's always different levels to this. There's steps to it. Like game one is marked on our calendar, obviously, right? And because, Tulsa came in here and they were able to beat us last year. And so, like, we start looking ahead and get ahead of ourselves. Like, that's not very good in the line of work that we're in. So we got to be committed to the process, the daily process of getting better, which, our coaches do a great job of that. Our strength coach does a great job of that. And, so that there's a lot of work to be done.
After spring football, I think they're going to try to do, I'm told that there's probably going to be like a stronger push for marketing, like Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Dallas, Houston, maybe some of the smaller markets in the state as well. Do you expect to be involved in some of that, to make appearances and maybe even take your quarterback with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know all the legality of all the stuff with quarterbacks, what he can and can't do. But absolutely, I mean, this is something that I want to get out and be as visible as I can. I've always been that way. I enjoy forming relationships, meeting people. I really enjoy the history of learning about the history of places. And two, it's always been fun to me to just organically let that happen and make myself available to people that love this place, right? And I think that's the fastest way for me to learn and grow and figure out, the rich history that is here at Oklahoma State. And not only the good times, right? The bad times, and to hear people's bad memories and going through these slumps and time periods where we weren't very good or didn't feel like we were, had the resources to compete at the right level. What are the kind of the major moments in the history that we've felt like have propelled this place, and getting back. And because there's so many cool things of, the running back errors and been cool for me, to get on the phone with Thurman Thomas and learn about, his experience here. And then also talk to a local person at the Walmart or the Sprouts and hear their version of what's happened here. So yeah, I definitely will be at a bunch of functions.
So have you been able to, I know you've been so occupied with the roster build, but like if you look ahead 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, have you determined maybe some changes you'd like to see made with the indoor, with the weight room, the locker room, the eye candy in the hallways, you know what I mean? Is there anything you'd like to?
I've put zero effort on really paying attention to that and putting much thought into that. Now I will at some point, and just, on a laundry list of things that's way down, really less important to that. And I've always said, if you build something, they'll come, right? And I think we were able to do that with a program at Incarnate Word, had no history, no success, and you build it, and then, everybody, is complaining and marketing and athletics and sales and nothing, whatever, and then all of a sudden you look up and you've won 3 conference championships, and everybody in San Antonio is pouring into your thing. There's media coverage. People want to know about what made this flip happen, right? And then, kind of similar to North Texas and the trajectory that we were on there. And so, all this stuff takes time to build. There's a lot of different steps. There's so many different support areas of college football now. And so for me now, next step of not only building the culture and stuff is really to organize all those different pieces and pieces of the puzzle that pull this thing together, right? And so so that'll be over the course of the next 2 or 3 months. We'll be able to settle down a little bit, get more time in the office, and allow us to address some of those things.
Yeah, Eric, 2 years ago at this time, Indiana had no tradition, no history of doing anything. They hired a coach. Everybody knows what's happened. Does that make your job more difficult or easier in terms of people expecting you, hey, we'll be great immediately, or people saying, hey, we believe this can actually happen?
That's a loaded question right there. Yeah, I think, obviously the parity that it's made in college football with the revenue share has made these recruits go to so many different places that they didn't in the past, right? I think that, you know, for us personally here, like we got to continue to grow to get on the level. And I'm not even going to talk about Indiana, but just, you know, as the Big Ten in general, I think Big Ten's done a phenomenal job at really at saying, hey, we're going to step out there and we're going to invest in these because they are the front step, the front porch of the whole entire university, right? And that ultimately on the back end, when you're able to have that success at somewhere like Indiana, like, you know, it'd be great research just to find out how much money University of Indiana actually made on this run, which is far more than what they spent on their roster this year. So I think we still have room to grow, and we're going to continue to do that, and that's going to be, you know, an effort of mine, and obviously, you know, our athletic departments is to continue to grow this as big as we can and be able to provide as many resources that we can and continue to invest in this program. You know, and I think just, you know, Indiana being able to do it this year, I think put a bunch of people on watch. And now, do I think we're going to be able to go in all of a sudden now because Indiana did it? No, absolutely not. Like, Kirk Cignetti deserves so much credit, not only for the roster he built, but just the brand of football that they played and how good they were up front on both sides of the football and being able to stop the run pretty much the whole entire season against some of the best running football teams in the nation, not turning the football over all year long, having the quarterback, you know, play the way and execute the way he did for 16 straight games. I mean, there's a lot of things that they did extremely well, and I think that was a combination of really good recruitment, being able to identify talent, get the talent on campus, and then just a phenomenal job of coaching the smallest details and really, you know, I think he talks about his 6 seconds of play and being able to be really committed for 6 seconds all the time. And you know, he has a bunch of great one-liners in there, but, you know, hats off to them. But I think for college football fans across America, it gives hope to everybody, right? And I think, you know, at some point people are, you know, the same 4 or 5 teams now for 25 years have been up there. You know, you think about, you know, you got Alabama, Georgia, you know, Clemson, LSU, and Ohio State. You know, throw Michigan in there one year, but, you know, that's kind of your five or six teams the last 25, 30 years that have controlled this market and everything that's going on, and now it's allowed it to spread out, you know, all across the nation. And so I think it's exciting for coaches and exciting that someone's now done it and there's a blueprint to do it. Now, is it easy? Hell no.
Did, and particularly how Cignetti did it, being that it's similar to what you're, in ways, what you're doing here, did it reinforce the idea that you can take a culture from one place and sort of import it to as a seed to grow a program at a different place?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously, you know, he's famous for saying, you know, whatever, Google me, he wins everywhere. So he's been really successful at multiple stops, right, and been able to win championships. And just similar to me, like I've never had any reservation that, like, Cam Ward, you know, winning, you know, a conference player of the year and a championship at Incarnate Word. Like, I'd been around Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield the previous year. Like, there was no reservation that I thought he could play and do what he did at Washington State with me. Like, no reservation. So I think, you know, when you bring players with you at times, I think obviously, you know, when you've been around enough ball and you've been, you know, at different levels, you know, the guys, the caliber athletes, they can come in and they can produce at that level, at the next level, right, is going to be a piece to it. But it's been fun for me to watch, you know, just obviously he's quirky, you know, he has a great personality. People are drawn to me a little bit like Mike Leach in a sense, like they're not even close to the same. But I think, you know, he's so abstract from other football coaches that I make, you know, he's a media guy's dream, right? Is I think he gives you all these one-liners and he's so unique. Everybody's just drawn to him because they're trying to figure out what he's thinking, how he did it, and he just keeps you on the edge of your seat enough, gives you enough to keep you interested. And so I think they had a lot of cool storylines this year, but, you know, obviously that's going to be really, really hard to reproduce that at other places.
We talk about forming culture, like what Leach went to Lubbock and did, and what people did not that long ago. how much more difficult is it now, considering you're sort of having to start from scratch, and next year you won't have 81 new players, but you might have 50. So how difficult is it to maintain a culture once you've established it or tried to establish it?
Yeah, I don't think it's as difficult as people think. Now, the only thing is I think you have to be a little bit more intentional with your time, and then you actually probably have to spend a little bit more time on the front end and more consistently. You know, when I played for Mike and coached for Mike, I mean, in the spring, he spent all spring and summer in Key West. Like, I didn't even see him as a player, and like he was just gone. And so, after the bowl game, I'd see him. You know, the first day we started spring ball, he'd get out at 2 p.m. and walk up and hand him a script, and here we go. And so, like, those days are over. Like, I just think, you know, you got to be a little bit more intentional with time, and you got to be better at doing it every year and not just assuming that, hey, these kids, the majority of them now, you know, 75% of them know this because that's just the way we do things, right? I think you got to commit to the learning process starts over every year and resetting, and then go back into that, building that culture like nobody knows it and nobody's heard it, seen it before, just because, you know, this year obviously they haven't, but I think the majority of college football, you know, the roster turnover is a much larger, you know, it's happening at a much larger pace than what it did before.
What do you think about the receiver room you've assembled, particularly with Chris Barnes and Justin Bullock?
Yeah, with the tallest and the shortest guy in the room right there. They were walking out of meetings today, and they were talking to one another. And I was laughing because to have two totally separate skill sets. Super excited about Justin and the way that he's worked and his fluidity and the way that he runs. Just watching him condition right now. Haven't been able to see him catch yet. Talking to Drew's, you know, does a great job getting these guys together and on the weekends having throwing sessions. Drew's fired up just about his ball skills, the way his movements are, his transition skills. Obviously, he led Illinois in touchdowns. And two, I just think he's a guy that'll really blossom into to really a major NFL, you know, an NFL type guy that they're going to want to see next year in this system. Just, I mean, if you've watched what he was able to do in an offense that isn't even close to using the way we're going to do it, so just super excited about him. And then Chris is someone I recruited in high school. He's committed to us at North Texas. Flipped late to Washington State, and then so someone that, you know, always had a great relationship with him and his mother. Super explosive with the ball in his hands. I think he ran a 10-2 100-meter dash. And so, you know, as we're getting into the running and stuff right now, I mean, already when I get my GPS reports, like Chris Barnes is the fastest guy on the GPS stuff already right now. And you turn on some clips last year and you see him run and, you know, on some kickoff returns and some deep posts and things like that. And so for those guys, I think just for me, you know, as still the offensive play caller, like super excited just about the potential and the way I can design plays to get those guys the ball in space in a completely different way, right? And I think they'll complement each other just because, you know, Justin's a guy that's so big and long and has a really big catch radius. And then, you know, Chris is obviously so twitchy and then, you know, you have those guys and then, you know, Wyatt Young, you know, that's a guy that obviously, you know, the production that he has. And then Israel Polk's a guy that we've been really fired up just watching run so far in his natural transitions right now. And so excited about, you know, the receiver corps and how that kind of progresses. A bunch of competition. We've got to figure out how to get all these guys on the dang field this year.
Do you have any final thoughts? We'll wrap it up.
No, I appreciate you guys. Yeah, and like I said, you know, we'll have a bunch of open stuff for you guys throughout the course of spring, and so look forward to forming relationships with everybody in here. And if you ever catch me outside of here, don't hesitate to talk about something other than football. But we appreciate you guys for covering us. Go Pokes!